Ladies and gentlemen, let's get one thing clear from the jump. Your life will always rise or fall to the level of value you place in it. And more importantly, the value you bring to it. You don't have a time problem. You don't have a money problem. You don't even have a people problem. What you might have is a value problem. See, we live in a world that's constantly trying to tell us what we're worth through likes, follows, job titles, or dollar signs. But hear me on this, real value doesn't come from outside approval. It comes from internal alignment. You want to know how to value your life? Every day, people wake up and walk into a world that's already decided what they're worth. From the moment they open their phones to scroll through social media, the algorithms start telling them how they should look, how successful they should be, and what kind of life they should be living. The problem isn't that people don't have value. The problem is they haven't taken the time to define it for themselves. And when you don't define who you are, the world will do it for you. The issue? The world will always give you a smaller version than what you're truly capable of. Clarity is power. When you lack clarity, you end up chasing things that aren't meant for you. You say yes to distractions, you follow trends, and you measure your progress against someone else's timeline. And suddenly, you're exhausted. Not because you've worked hard, but because you've worked aimlessly. You've poured energy into becoming what others expect instead of standing confidently in who you actually are. That's what happens when you don't establish your own value. You start borrowing someone else's definition, and you wonder why it doesn't feel right. Defining your value begins with asking better questions. Who am I when nobody's watching? What do I truly care about? What sets my soul on fire? Most people never slow down long enough to wrestle with those questions. They're so busy trying to meet deadlines, hit goals, or be liked, they never discover the one thing that unlocks everything else: alignment. When you know who you are, what you believe, and where you're going, everything changes. You stop being tossed around by opinions. You stop negotiating your worth. You walk with intention because your value is no longer up for debate. It's established. It's not about arrogance. It's about authority. When you have clarity about who you are and what you bring to the table, you move differently. You show up in rooms without shrinking. You speak with confidence, not because you're perfect, but because you're certain of your purpose. That level of clarity eliminates confusion, and confusion is the enemy of progress. The more you understand your own value, the less permission you need from anyone else to show up and take space. Let's be real. Life is loud. There are a million voices trying to tell you what success looks like. But success isn't just reaching a destination. It's becoming the kind of person who can handle what they've been called to build. That begins with knowing your identity, your vision, and your standards. Clarity is what allows you to say no to good things so you can say yes to the right things. It's what gives you the strength to walk away from comfort in pursuit of calling. When you're clear, you no longer chase value. You carry it. The moment you decide to get clear on your value is the moment your life begins to shift. Your relationships change. Your decisions become sharper. Your goals become rooted in purpose, not pressure. And the beautiful thing is, clarity isn't about having all the answers. It's about being bold enough to ask the right questions and sit with the truth that comes up. It's about owning your story, honoring your uniqueness, and realizing you don't need to compete when you were born to create. When you start from clarity, you don't just live. You live with direction. And that's where real value begins. We live in a time where everyone is busy. Calendars are packed, notifications are nonstop, and it seems like everyone's running full speed. But few are actually going anywhere that matters. Productivity is high, but purpose is low. Why? Because most people are investing their energy in things that don't align with what truly matters to them. They're answering every call, replying to every message, saying yes to every request, and wondering why they feel depleted at the end of the day. The truth is simple but powerful. When you don't protect your priorities, your value leaks. Energy is your most valuable currency. Time is precious, but energy is what determines the quality of that time. You can't pour into your goals, your relationships, or your purpose if you're constantly distracted, constantly reacting, constantly being pulled in a dozen directions. Protecting your priorities isn't about being selfish. It's about being responsible. Because what you focus on grows. And when you give your focus to the wrong things, you're watering weeds instead of growing fruit. There's a difference between being busy and being effective. Just because something demands your attention doesn't mean it deserves your attention. Every yes costs you something. Every time you commit to something, you're saying no to something else, whether you realize it or not. That's why being clear on your priorities is non-negotiable. You have to know what matters most, and then you have to protect that like your future depends on it. Think about it. Think about it. If your peace is a priority, then you can't entertain chaos. If your growth is a priority, then you can't keep wasting time on things that don't develop you. If your purpose is a priority, then you have to be willing to say no to comfort and convenience. Every time you honor your priorities, you send a message to yourself in the world: I know what I'm here to do, and I'm not available for anything less. It's easy to fall into the trap of being a people pleaser. You want to be available, you want to be helpful, you don't want to let anyone down. But here's the truth. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't align, you're saying no to your own vision. You're not here to live by everyone else's agenda. You're here to move with intention. And intentional living requires boundaries. Boundaries aren't walls. They're fences that protect what's valuable. You don't put a lock on something worthless. You secure what matters most: your mind, your time, your peace, your calling. And let's talk about distractions, because not everything that looks like an opportunity is a blessing. Some things are just distractions dressed up in shiny wrapping. You have to be discerning enough to recognize when something isn't for you, even if it looks good. Just because it's popular doesn't mean it's purposeful. Just because it's urgent doesn't mean it's important. That's why protecting your priorities takes courage. You have to be willing to disappoint others in order to stay true to yourself. There will always be noise, always be demands, but you don't have to answer every call. You don't have to fight every battle. You don't have to show up for every event. When you truly value your life, you don't give it away cheaply. You steward it with care. You become intentional with your yes and powerful with your no. That's how you protect your energy. That's how you protect your peace. That's how you live a life that actually means something. Because a life of value isn't built on reaction. It's built on intention. Most people are waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect opportunity, the perfect person to show up and make their life better. But here's the truth. Life doesn't give you what you wait for. It gives you what you become. If you want to live a life of value, you have to stop looking for it outside of yourself and start becoming the source of it. That means shifting your mindset from being a consumer to being a creator, from asking, what can I get, to what can I give? You want more impact, bring more value. You want more money, bring more value. You want more respect, bring more value. That's the secret. The world doesn't reward need. It rewards contribution. And contribution starts with how you show up, not when it's convenient, not just when people are watching, but every day in every space you step into. Be the one who over-delivers. Be the one who brings solutions, not just problems. Be the one who listens when others talk, who cares when others don't, who shows up with excellence when others settle for average. That's how you separate yourself. That's how you build trust. That's how you elevate not just your life, but the lives of the people around you. Because when you become a person of value, you start to attract opportunities, not chase them. You start to open doors that were once locked. Why? Because value is magnetic. This isn't about being perfect. This is about being intentional. You don't have to know everything. You just have to be willing to learn, to grow, to be humble enough to admit where you are, and bold enough to keep moving forward. People of value are students first. They study, they listen, they adjust, they evolve. And because they're constantly growing, they always have something to give. That's what separates them. That's what makes them invaluable in any room they walk into. Stop waiting for the big stage to show up as your best self. Start treating every environment like it matters. Show up to your job, your relationships, your side hustle, your community, with intention and with excellence. You don't get to choose where value pays off, but you do get to choose to bring it consistently. And when you do, the payoff always comes. Maybe not today, maybe not this week. But value always finds its way back to you, multiplied. People often ask, how do I become more valuable? The answer is simple, but it's not easy. You become more valuable by developing your character, not just your skills. You learn how to communicate. You learn how to handle pressure. You show up when it's hard. You stay consistent when nobody claps. You become a problem solver, a peace bringer, a momentum builder. Those are the people that rise. Not the loudest, not the flashiest, the ones who bring something real to the table. So take a look at your life right now, right now. Where can you bring more value? Not just in what you do, but in how you do it. How do you speak to people? How do you show up for your responsibilities? How do you treat your commitments? That's where it starts. Because when you stop waiting to get value and start focusing on how to be value, everything changes. You'll stop wondering when your moment will come and realize. Your moment starts every day you decide to show up like you matter. Discipline isn't flashy. It doesn't always look exciting. You don't get a round of applause for waking up early, keeping your word, or sticking to your plan. But make no mistake, discipline is the foundation of self-worth. It's the behind-the-scenes work that builds confidence, character, and long-term value. Most people think discipline is about restriction, about saying no to fun, about missing out. But in reality, discipline is freedom. It's the ability to trust yourself, to know that when you say you'll do something, you follow through. Not because someone is watching, but because you are watching. Your life reflects what you consistently do. You can have the biggest dreams, the loudest affirmations, and the most detailed vision board. But if your daily habits don't match your goals, your life will stay stuck. That's the hard truth. Your habits are the physical proof of how much you value yourself. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you're declaring that your future matters more than your momentary comfort. That your growth matters more than your excuses. That your calling matters more than your cravings. Discipline isn't just about doing hard things. It's about doing the right things, especially when you don't feel like it. Anyone can be motivated when it's easy. The discipline shows up when motivation runs out. It shows up in the early mornings, the quiet grind, the lonely seasons. And over time, discipline becomes your edge. It's what sets you apart. Not because you're better than anyone else, but because you've trained yourself to show up consistently, even when it's inconvenient, even when no one's cheering, even when progress feels slow. Think about the version of yourself you're trying to become. That version isn't built through random effort or occasional inspiration. It's built brick by brick, through small choices that compound into massive change. Want to be mentally strong? Train your mind daily. Want to be physically healthy? Honor your body consistently. Want to grow spiritually, emotionally, financially? Then invest in practices that reflect that desire over and over again. Because discipline isn't something you do once. It's a lifestyle. It's a mindset. And it always pays off. The problem is, we live in a culture obsessed with shortcuts. Everyone wants results, but few want the process. People want transformation without transition. They want the reward without the routine, but the ones who win in the long run, in business, in relationships, in life, are the ones who submit to the process. Who build systems, who create structure, who stay focused when everyone else is distracted. That's the real flex. That's the real value. And here's the key. Discipline doesn't have to be extreme. It just has to be consistent. You don't need to run marathons every day. You just need to show up and honor your commitments. Keep your promises, stick to your priorities. And when you mess up, because you will, don't spiral. Don't quit. Just reset. Real discipline isn't perfection. It's resilience. It's the decision to get back up and keep going even after failure. The more disciplined you are, the more you begin to trust yourself. And that trust, that's where real confidence is born, not in what others say about you, but in what you know about yourself, that you're capable, consistent, and committed, that you can be counted on, especially by you. That level of inner trust is priceless. It makes you unstoppable. Because when your actions are aligned with your vision and your habits match your ambition, you no longer hope to succeed, you expect to. And that's what living with value truly looks like. There comes a point in life when you have to stop asking for more and start demanding better. From yourself, from your habits, from your environment. You have to raise the standard. Because you don't get what you wish for, and you don't even get what you work for. You get what you're willing to tolerate. And for a lot of people, the gap between where they are and where they want to be isn't a lack of talent, or opportunity. It's a tolerance issue. They're simply living at a level far below what they were built for, not because they can't do more, but because they've gotten comfortable settling for less. Raising your standards isn't about being better than other people. It's about refusing to live beneath your potential. It's about understanding that excellence is a decision, not a personality trait. And every day, you have the power to choose whether you're going to operate in your comfort zone or in your calling. People who raise their standards don't wait for external motivation. They create internal accountability. They don't chase perfection. They pursue growth. And the higher their standards rise, the more their life begins to align. Let's be real. You can't live an exceptional life with average standards. You can't expect elite results with lazy habits. If you keep showing up late, slacking on your word, making excuses and calling it self-care, you're not protecting your peace. You're lowering your value. Because every time you accept something that doesn't align with your vision, you reinforce the idea that your dream isn't worth protecting. Standards are boundaries in action. They say, oh, this is what I expect. This is what I allow. This is what I'm building. When you raise them, things start to shift. Some people won't understand it. Some relationships might not survive it. Some old habits will have to die in the process. But that's the cost of evolution. You can't hold on to low standards and expect a high-quality life. That applies to your work, your health, your mindset, your relationships, everything. Raising your standards forces you to stop blaming the outside world for what you're not doing on the inside. It's not about what the world owes you. It's about what you owe yourself. When you walk into a room with high standards, people feel it. Not because you say it, but because you live it. It's in how you carry yourself, how you speak, how you handle pressure. You don't have to shout your worth when your presence makes it clear. That's the power of standards. They speak before you do, and they attract people, opportunities, and experiences that match your energy. Because when you operate at a higher level, you stop attracting chaos and start creating order. But here's what most people miss. Raising your standards isn't just about saying, I want more. It's about showing up in a way that proves it. It's not just about removing things from your life. It's about replacing them with better habits, better goals, better beliefs. You don't need to overhaul your entire life overnight. You just need to raise one standard, then follow through. And once you do, momentum builds, confidence builds, identity builds. Suddenly, you're not the same person you were 6 months ago, and you don't want to be. So if you feel stuck, overwhelmed, uninspired, check your standards. Check what you've been tolerating. Check the little compromises you've been making that are keeping you average. Because you were never meant to live a life defined by limitations. You were meant to lead, to grow, to rise. And it starts the moment you decide, I'm no longer available for anything less than alignment, excellence, and purpose. That's when everything changes. That's when your life starts to match the greatness inside you. You don't need everyone to get it. You don't need everyone to clap. You don't need universal approval to walk in your assignment. At some point, you have to decide that your value doesn't rise and fall based on the crowd's reaction. That's the kind of internal confidence that can't be shaken. And it comes from understanding that your worth isn't up for public vote. You have to validate yourself before the world ever does. If you don't believe in who you are and what you carry, you'll spend your whole life looking for external confirmation. And the second it disappears, you'll question everything. People will doubt you. People will misunderstand you. Some won't support you, not because you're doing something wrong, but because your growth exposes their comfort. You start showing up differently, setting boundaries, speaking truth, chasing purpose, and suddenly you become a mirror for everything they've been avoiding. That's not your problem to fix. Your responsibility isn't to keep people comfortable with your old identity. It's to stay true to your evolving self. Growth isn't always applauded, but it's always worth it. And the sooner you accept that not everyone will clap when you level up, the freer you become. Validation feels good, but it can't be your fuel. Because the moment your value is based on likes, applause, or attention, you hand over your power. You start performing instead of living. You start adjusting who you are based on who's watching. And over time, you lose the most valuable thing you have, authenticity. When you show up for approval, you become a version of yourself that's easy to digest, not a version that's true to your calling. And the more you do that, the harder it is to recognize the person in the mirror. You have to get to a place where peace matters more than praise, where alignment matters more than applause. That kind of maturity doesn't happen overnight. It's built in the quiet moments. In the seasons where nobody's noticing the work, where the progress feels slow, where your only motivation is the vision that won't leave you alone. That's where self-validation is forged. When you do the right thing, not because anyone's watching, but because you know it's right. When you keep building, even when no one sees the value yet, because you do. You're not here to prove your worth. You're here to walk in it. You're not here to shrink so others feel safe. You're here to shine so others feel free. The goal isn't to be liked by everyone. It's to be known by the right ones. And you can't attract the right people if you're hiding behind a mask of performance. That's why being grounded in your value matters so much. Because when you're rooted, you stop reacting to rejection. You stop begging for acceptance. You stop editing your story to make others more comfortable. Self-validation is about choosing yourself daily. It's about knowing your standards, honoring your process, and being proud of your progress even when it's not visible yet. It's about standing firm when doubt creeps in and reminding yourself, I'm not where I used to be. I may not be where I want to be, but I'm still moving. I'm still growing. I'm still growing. I'm still aligned with the assignment on my life. And that is enough. You don't need a stage to matter. You don't need applause to be valuable. You need clarity, courage, and commitment. When you validate yourself, you walk with quiet power. You stop chasing validation and start creating legacy. You stop hustling for a seat at the table and realize you are the table. That's when you become unstoppable, not because the world said so, but because you did.